Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. Ryan Blake will be joining us shortly. In fact, by shortly, I mean Ryan Blake will be joining us right now. Good morning, Ryan. How are you today? I'm trying. Let's go. It's being slow. There he is, Ryan. Good morning. How are you?
There we are. I'm doing well, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing all right. There were a couple of things I remembered that I wanted to do for the show today. And as I was doing them, I looked down and it was 9:56 and I hadn't written the description for the show yet or sent you the link. So if we're off to a little bit of a late start, that one is on me. But good morning. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. Orioles winners of 6 of their last 8 after a 5-game losing streak. I think the vibes coming into today's game or into today's show a lot better than they were coming into last week's show. Let's get right into it. I want to remind you, today's show brought to you by Royal Farms. Chicken Palooza is underway at your neighborhood Royal Farms. This year's deal includes a 3-piece meal for just $8 and an 8-piece meal for just $12. Plus, you can go to royalfarms.com and enter for your chance to win chicken for a year. And while you're there, vote for your favorite charity as Royal Farms is donating 10 cents from every 3-piece meal sold during Chicken Palooza to the winning charity. Plus, don't forget to get your Chicken Palooza gear to celebrate everyone's favorite season. So stop by your neighborhood Rofo today. Ryan, how was your 4th?
It was great, man. The 4th is my favorite holiday. I love doing the cookout with the family, going to see the parade, going to watch the fireworks. Catonsville puts on a heck of a fireworks display, as always. I love the 4th, man. Just good vibes all around.
Yeah, man. It was pretty uneventful on my end. I had the baby all day, and we went to BJ's, and she was a perfect little angel. Then we went to my mom's and watched the Orioles get their butts kicked. And then the game that they shouldn't have gotten their butts kicked. Honestly, they should have won that game. But, coulda, woulda, shoulda. You don't win every game. And we talked about it before. It's not that they lose. It's how they lose that's very frustrating. But look, the Orioles have won 6 of 8. They got the win last night, 3-2 over the Athletics. So we're not going to talk about the losses. And there's plenty to get into on today's show. We did take my daughter to see the fireworks on Thursday evening.
How'd she do with that?
Well, we had these little earmuffs, and she was still cute as pie with the little earmuffs on, and she was more interested in the people and the cars passing by than the actual fireworks. So we were a good bit away from the fireworks. They were lit off at John Carroll, and we were about a mile and a half away from there. So not even a mile and a half, probably about a mile away from there. So we got to see them without all the loud noise and without it blinding her. But it was good, man. It was a good night overall, a good first experience with our daughter for 4th of July. Really nice first experience. What's that?
I was just going to say, I'm a little surprised you don't want to talk more about Brandon Hyde bringing in Keegan Aiken to face a lefty who hits lefties better with the bases loaded. But, hey, I'm more than content to move on and talk about what's gone right this week.
And then also bringing in Ramon Urias, who slugs like 446 against left-handed pitching, bringing him in to pinch hit for Colton Cowser. And I get it. Cowser's hitting like 180 since April 16th. I understand it. And he ended up, and Urias had a double. But I actually posted a tweet. It was a GIF or a meme. I can't remember which one it was, of Jesse Pinkman on Breaking Bad yelling, "He can't keep getting away with this."
Yeah, sounds about right.
It's like, oh, he pushes the right buttons again. Did he? Like, did he?
All about those splits, baby.
Yeah. Anyway, what we will talk about is the good. And Albert Suarez was definitely the good last night. Two starts in a row. Albert Suarez has gone 6 innings of brilliant starting pitching for the Orioles. He hadn't gone 6 innings in a game since 2016, and now he's done it in back-to-back starts. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and 2 earned runs coming on 2 solo shots. One off the bat of was it Miguel Andujar, and the other one
Andujar in the first, and then was it Langoliers?
Shea Chandeliers in the top of the 7th inning. So we did go out for the 7th inning, gave up the home run, and Hyde had the hider hook. And but look, he gave the Orioles exactly what they needed: 6 innings, a 2-run ball. Austin Hayes, on his 29th birthday, 3 for 4, 2 doubles, an RBI, and a run scored. Let's talk a little bit about Austin Hayes, Ryan. And
I would love to.
His post-game interviews, you can hear it. You can see it on his face that he's demoralized by his role on this team. This is a guy who was an all-star last year. He was the first draft pick from the 2016 draft to make his MLB debut after having a monstrous 2017 minor league season where he was a finalist for minor league player of the year. Not in the system, in the entire country. He was a finalist for minor league player of the year. He made his debut at the end of that season. And we've been waiting ever since for Austin Hayes to put that full season together, which he has yet to do, right? But he got off to that terrible start this year, lost his job to Colton Cowser, who got off to a monstrous start. Now the roles have completely flipped. Cowser's still starting more often than not, and Hayes is actually tearing the cover off the ball since May 15th. Since his return from the IL on May 15th, Austin Hayes is slashing .337, .383, .570 with a .953 OPS. Though he does have more than a 7-to-1 K to walk ratio. He has 22 strikeouts to 3 walks over that time span. We keep talking about the Orioles need a right-handed hitting outfielder. It seems like they already have that on this roster. Is Austin Hayes, should he be getting more run than he is?
He's been crushing lefties this year. His splits, it's the first time since I think 2021 that his splits are anything significant. The last couple of years, it's been just about even against lefties and righties. This year, he's significantly better. I think he has a .956 OPS against lefties this year. I think that's what I saw. But Paul, Hayes had a terrible start to the year. He was arguably the worst hitter in baseball for the first month of the season. He felt like he was rolling over everything onto the left side. And, you know, despite all that, his OPS plus on the season is 111 right now. That's above league average. And he's been consistently a little bit above league average for his entire career. He had one season, I think it was 2019, maybe 2020, where his OPS plus was 95. He's been over 100 every other season. So, yes, it's interesting because he's a very streaky hitter, and we've seen that over the course of his career, and a lot of that seems to have to do with injuries. But at the same time, he's been a model of consistency for this team. Like he's done nothing but be a slightly above league average hitter, and he plays great defense out in left field. And so it's
not so much this year. He's looked pretty terrible out there, in my opinion.
He's looked rough this year on a few occasions, but you know, he's been a producer despite how low the lows can be with Austin Hayes. He's still found a way, especially over the last couple of months, to get those season numbers up to about what you'd expect. So it's good to see for him. I don't know if it's going to mean his role opens up a little bit or not. You know, it's hard to bench guys like Mullins and Cowser when they are hitting well. Cowser obviously, you know, has been in a bit of an extended slump here, but, you know, did have 3 homers a couple weeks ago. So that was a good sign. But yeah, you know, despite how he feels about it all, like you said, you can kind of see it in his face and hear it in his expression in his post-game interviews when he's chatting with the media that, you know, he's a little more down on himself than he has been in years past, but he's continuing to produce. And so, you know, to your question, do they already have their right-handed hitting outfielder? When you look at his numbers against left-handed pitching, I think they do. I think Hayes is your guy against lefties until he proves that he's not. So, you know, it's good to see him go on an extended run of success here, and hopefully that's something that'll continue. Hopefully he can stay healthy and continue to produce in whatever role he's in. But in any event, it's good to see a guy who's been here from the jump, you know, contribute to the team.
Yeah, and you look at his season slash line, 260, 319, 412, 732 with an OPS plus of 111. Colton Cowser, 223, 312, 434, 745, OPS plus of 114. Cowser has made a season out of the first 3 weeks. Like a lot of those numbers for Cowser are slowly ticking down from what he built up over the course when he was just off the charts to start the year. And you have to wonder at what point do we take a little bit of a step back from Kazman? Maybe they're kind of starting to. Heston Kjerstad's been hitting the ball pretty well when he's getting his opportunities. It doesn't seem like he plays back-to-back games very often. The Orioles have options. God, and everybody, I feel like people think that I hate Colton Cowser, and I don't. I absolutely do not. But I want to see a guy do something remotely close to what he did the first 3 weeks, because he's hitting 180 since April 16th. Like, we're going on 3 months of this now. Like, we've got to like kind of look at him and say, hey, until you prove otherwise, you are who you are. Like, we can look at him and say, oh, but he's got 12 home runs. He's got 34 RBI and a 745 slugging. 745 OPS. Well, 745 OPS isn't great. 12 home runs is fine, but he had what, like 8 in the first month? So
something like that.
I'm not. Austin Hayes has never met a pitch he doesn't want to swing at, and if it's not a fastball, he kind of looks foolish a lot unless he absolutely knows that pitch is coming. But this is a guy who's been there, done that for this team. He started in left field for the American League All-Star team last year. Was leading the American League in hitting at the All-Star break last year. Maybe it's time he gets a little bit more run, and we really see what he can do if he gets consistent playing time again. Because I'll tell you right now, watching Colton Cowser fail game after game after game has gotten frustrating.
Yeah.
And, I know that people love him. I don't dislike him. But this team's on pace to win like 104 games. Can we get a regular, everyday outfielder that we don't have to worry about? And Austin Hayes might not be that guy either, for all I know.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you look at Cowser. I haven't looked in the last couple weeks, but I know pretty recently he was according to Fangraphs, the most valuable American League rookie in both offense and defense. And I think there was a period as well where, despite his slump, his expected stats were slightly better than they were when he was tearing the cover off the ball. And we talked about it on last week's show, how, he was coming off a week where he had 3 homers in, I think, 5 games, 4 starts. And, I mentioned that it looked like he was showing an increased ability to lay off the breaking balls down and wait for the fastball. And when he got those fastballs, he was crushing them. And then over the last week, he's fallen back into his old habits where he's, every breaking ball, every off-speed pitch that's, lower half of the zone or further down, he's rolling his top hand over and can't seem to make contact. So, it is an interesting case. I think Cowser deserves a long leash because we've seen what he can do when he's in a groove at the plate. Hayes has been the guy for a lot longer. So I think Hayes gets the benefit of the doubt.
On 3 months. I mean, we're 10 days away from being 3 months of him hitting 180. I mean, that's a really long leash. That's a Chris Davis leash.
Yeah, and there's been some bad luck associated with that.
I hear that so much. I hear that a lot about Ryan Mountcastle. But like,
well, Mountcastle's coming up on what, a month where he hasn't homered.
If
Mountcastle is in a big slump.
If he does not homer today or tomorrow, it will be a full calendar month since Ryan Mountcastle last hit a home run. This is a guy who hits 3rd or 4th in your order every game, and we're coming up on a month without a home run from Ryan Mountcastle. And it brings us to the next point. The Orioles scored 17 runs against the Yankees on a Thursday afternoon game. And then the following night, that Friday night, Grace Rodriguez crapped the bed. They found themselves down 14-3 before mounting a serious comeback, but still falling short. They scored 11 runs. Since then, 13 games since then, the Orioles have scored 3 runs or less 8 times, including 5 of their last 7 games. Now, in their last 7 games, the Orioles are 5-2. But they've managed to score 3 runs or less 5 of those 7 games. And I get it. They were one of those games they faced Max Scherzer. Another game they faced Michael Lorenzen, who's got like a dazzling like 3.02 ERA. And then they faced the Seattle Mariners. They faced Paul Gilbert, Bryce Miller, and who's the other guy that they faced? What's his name?
They faced Kirby in the first one, George Kirby.
Gilbert, and then
Gilbert,
Miller.
and then Miller.
The Mariners have the second best starter ERA, rotation ERA in the American League, behind, surprisingly, your Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles have the best starting rotation. Despite that 8-game stretch where their ERA was like 8.5, they have the best starting rotation ERA in the American League and second best in all of baseball. The Mariners number 2 in the AL, number 3 in the majors. So, like, I understand that. Like, we knew that was not going to be a high-scoring series, right? And then they go on, they face Oakland last night, score only 3 runs. They get the win. But this is kind of harkening back to the beginning of May when this team was really struggling to score runs for about 2 to 3 weeks. Are we beginning to worry about this offense again?
No. And I understand why you would. I absolutely do. You said it. The Orioles are 5-2 in their last 7, despite scoring 3 runs or less in 5 of those games. And we've seen throughout the course of the season and years past that this offense will go cold for stretches, but they always bust out of it in a big way. And I think they're due for that. Whether it's going to come this series against Oakland or back at home against the Cubs, I don't know. But what I do know is that they're going to figure it out. They're one of the best offenses, top to bottom, in the league. They have contributions from 1 through 9 in the order. Maybe 1 through 7. But in any event, the offense is bound to break out at some point. And the fact that they've been able to string together some wins despite having a pretty mediocre offense over the last couple weeks, I think that speaks volumes on what this team is capable of. So, unless this 3 runs or less thing becomes, a regular occurrence leading into the All-Star break, I'm not concerned just yet because I think they're due for an 8-run game.
Yeah.
Maybe today.
I think that you have to look at the fact that the pitchers that they faced during this stretch have been really good. And somebody said last night, this game reminds me a lot of Thursday's game against the Mariners. You're letting a bad team hang around for too long. The Mariners are in first place in their division. Yeah, they have the statistically the worst offense in baseball. They need help there, but their pitching staff is phenomenal, and the Orioles have taken 4 or 6 from them this year. It's not like they're facing a bad baseball team. It's not like they're facing scrubs and scoring 3 runs a game. They're facing some of the best pitching that they're going to see all year, and they're finding ways to win this game because their pitching is matching the challenge. However, we do need to see a little bit better offense. And I want to read you a stat line. And I want you to tell me who this is. 284, 387, 564, 952. 30 home runs, 30 doubles, 3 triples, 109 RBIs, 70 walks, and 128 Ks. What player is that?
I saw you put this in the notes a few minutes before showtime, and I was trying to rack my brain. I don't know.
That's Kobe Mayo in 130 career games at AAA. 130 career games at AAA. A 284, 387, 564 slash line, 952 OPS, 30 home runs, 30 doubles, 109 RBI, and 70 walks in 130 games. This season, at AAA, now Kobe Mayo overall has 18 doubles, 21 homers. He's hitting 309. But at AAA, he's hitting 300, 381, 614, 995, 18 home runs, 54 RBI, 15 doubles, and 2 triples in 58 games. Ryan Mountcastle, since June 3rd, he entered the game on June 3rd, hitting 291. He had just homered, I believe, 3 times in the previous 2 games. Since June 3rd, 226, 276, 359, 634, 3 home runs, 17 RBI, 7 walks, 23 strikeouts in 28 games. We already said, if he doesn't homer today or tomorrow, he will have gone a calendar month without a home run. I'm not saying that we need to bench Ryan Mountcastle. I personally love Ryan Mountcastle, but he is a very streaky hitter. And he's a guy who consistently hits in the middle third of your order. He consistently hits the third, fourth, or fifth in your lineup. Excuse me. And he's not producing. For a full month, this man is not producing. Meanwhile, I feel like every time I get a notification from the Norfolk Tides, It's Kobe Mayo doubles home 2 runs. Kobe Mayo powers a home run over the left field wall and now the Tides trail 12-3. It's their minor league, their pitching staff is absolutely atrocious, but that's a topic for another day. Is Kobe Mayo? Is there any other team where he wouldn't be here by now? If the Yankees had Kobe Mayo,
No.
he'd be literally starting at third base and batting 5th for them every single day. Is there any team in baseball where Kobe Mayo isn't playing every day at the big league level except for the Baltimore Orioles?
No, there's not. And it's even more glaring when you look at the production we've gotten from Jorge Mateo and Ramon Arias over the last month. Arias has figured it out a little bit at the plate. He's done a little better recently in a limited role, but Mateo has been in another one of his extended slumps. We saw he's just not getting on base anymore. And Mateo's a weapon when he can get on base and steal some bags, and he hasn't been doing that recently. So, it makes it even more glaring that, either he or Arias is in the lineup on a daily basis when you've got not only Mayo, but Connor Norby and Jackson Holliday waiting at AAA for, a legitimate shot. So, and especially with, one of our big right-handed bats in Mountcastle struggling, I see no reason why they shouldn't be bringing Kobe Mayo up on Monday to meet the team in Baltimore to play the Cubs or on Tuesday.
They don't play on Monday?
They don't play on Monday. They got an off day. And then it's 3 against the Cubs, 3 against the Yankees. So look, Mayo's been ripping the cover off the ball. Like you said, with every notification, I'll get on Twitter and I'll see, at the top of my feed, another Kobe Mayo video, whether it's an RBI double or another home run. And I feel like I'm seeing something that I just saw the day before. It's day in and day out with Mayo. I think he had an 0-for-5 night the other night, but other than that, he's been spectacular. I think you've got to find a spot for him. And with Mountcastle struggling, with the lack of production you're getting from, second or third base, whether it's Mateo or Arias, I think you got to get him up here. Mateo is a role player, and he should be. Arias is kind of a platoon utility guy. And the defense has been good, but Jordan Westberg's been great as well. And if you bring up Mayo to play third, you slide Westberg over to second base, and that's your regular infield. And I think just that, and putting Mayo, even if he starts batting, 6th, 7th, 8th in this lineup, I think he's going to be a massive factor. So I'm chopping at the bit for Mayo to get the call. I think it's going to come sooner rather than later. He's not on the Futures Game roster, and maybe part of that is they think they're going to bring him up before then. That could be wishful thinking, but you got to find a role for Mayo because he's absolutely tearing the cover off.
You've got to look at what Jorge Mateo. I mean, Jorge Mateo, whatever he gives you offensively is a bonus, and anytime that he gets on a little bit of a hot streak, you're like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? And this year, to his credit, through June 12th, he was hitting 250. Which, if you get 250 out of Jorge Mateo, that's a difference maker on your ball club. But
to play, devil's advocate there, I think at the same time his on base was like 280, 290. I don't think he's 300
you
yet this
look
year.
at what he's done since June 13th. In 16 games, 173, 204, 289, 492 with a 222 BABIP. He's got 15 strikeouts and just 2 walks. 1 double, 1 triple, 1 home run, 3 extra base hits in 16 games. The defense is great, but
I'm not even sure the defense has been spectacular. There have been a couple plays in the last couple weeks. One that I think of on Pride Night against the Rangers, first inning, Corey Seager hit a ground ball. I think Mateo should have made that play. Seager ended up getting a hit, but that was I considered a tailor-made double play. Mateo just missed it. There was the ball up the middle that he couldn't handle that would have been a force out at second base. Again, wasn't charged with an error, but I don't think the defense has been, as advertised. Yeah, he's made some plays that other second basemen don't come close to, but he's also missed a few of the easy ones over the last few weeks that, kind of bring up a little bit of a red flag because he's got to be one of your elite defenders. And there have been a couple instances over the last few weeks where it's been like, come on, man, you got to make that play.
Just a slightly above average by the metrics. He's a slightly above average defender at second base. Phenomenal at shortstop in the 5 games that he's been there. And then in the outfield, he's absolutely atrocious. Even though he hasn't made an error, he's atrocious. negative metrics across the board there. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Maybe Connor Norby, but Connor Norby isn't known for his defense. Jackson Holliday isn't ready. Like, he just isn't ready. He went back. I mean, when he got called up, he was hitting like 340 down there. And I get it. It was early in the season. He came up, he struggled. But I look at Jackson Holliday and what he's done down at Norfolk. And then he had the injury. He isn't playing regularly at second base. He's been DHing. I don't know if he's even gotten a start yet at second base, is coming back off the IL. But I look at his at what he's done since he went back down. What was at the end of April, beginning of May, when he went back down?
Around there.
And it hasn't been good. It's been, sorry, I'm trying to talk and find his game log since he went back down. But let's see. He went back down to the minors on April 27th. So since April 27th, Jackson Holliday is hitting 254, 432 on base percentage, 439 slugging, 871 OPS, 6 home runs, 14 doubles, 20 RBI, 54 walks, 56 strikeouts. And his batting average on balls in play is 342. It's a good slash line. If he's doing it at the major league level, you're playing him every day, and he's in the running for as an all-star at second base. The problem is that you want to see a guy hit better than 254 at the minor league level. And yeah, he's getting on base, but we didn't see him show that ability when he came up the first time. Is he going to press again if he comes up again? And has he earned it above a guy like Connor Norby to be coming up to the major league level?
Right.
I believe Jackson Holliday will be a star in this league. I just don't think he's ready for that yet. Do you think he's ready?
No, I think you give the nod to a Mayo or a Norby before you consider bringing Holliday back up. And look, I'm certainly one to look at on-base percentage over batting average, and a 430 number is spectacular for an on-base guy, especially at 20 years old. But Holliday's a 280 hitter. He's not a 250 hitter. So until you get that swing right where he's able to consistently, put the ball in play for base hits, keep him at AAA. I don't think there's a pressing need to get him up here. Obviously, we all wanted to see him get his cup of coffee, and I'm glad we did. And I'm glad it showed us that he wasn't quite ready for the big stage yet. But the guy's 20 years old. He's going to figure it out. Don't rush him. Let him get more comfortable, and give the nod to someone like Mayo, who's been at AAA for almost a full calendar year now, or Connor Norby, who's been there for almost 2. So, give one of those guys a shot. You need right-handed hitters in your lineup who are going to produce. Mateo and Arias are not those guys. You got 2 guys in Norby and Mayo who play the same positions. I'm itching to see one of them for sure.
Well, we're going to see somebody getting promoted sooner rather than later, I think, because what Kobe Mayo is doing at the minor league level is otherworldly, frankly. And what some of the Orioles are doing at the major league level is otherworldly. And that was represented by them having 6 all-star finalists this past week. Before we get into that, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Orioles All-Stars. Adley and Gunnar selected as the starters at catcher and at shortstop for the American League All-Star squad. Ryan Mountcastle loses out to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the finals. Jordan Westberg loses out to Jose Ramirez. Anthony Santander loses out to Juan Soto and Stephen Kwan. And Ryan O'Hearn loses out to, who was the DH? Yordan Alvarez. In their finals matchups. First and foremost, it's hard to argue with who they lost out to. Every player that the Orioles finalists lost out to is having a better year than that Orioles player, and they're household names. I mean, Yordan Alvarez is known as arguably the best DH in baseball behind Shohei Ohtani, right? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is Vladimir. He was a top prospect in baseball. He's a Hall of Famer's son. All he's done in his career, for the most part, is mash. Jose Ramirez might be the best overall third baseman in the game right now. And then Juan Soto walks more than anybody in baseball, and he hits 300, and he has 20 home runs, and he's got an OPS above 1,000. And then Stephen Kwan is like the American League leader in hits, and he's missed like 20 games.
Yeah. Kwan's the only one that doesn't have the name recognition to this point, although he was a Rookie of the Year finalist last year, and he's hitting like 360. So
2 years ago,
look,
but yeah.
completely understand, those guys missing out 2 years ago. Yeah, sorry. Look, and we look at first base, and I think we talked on last week's show about how Mountcastle probably should get the nod over Guerrero, but all that Mountcastle's done is struggle. Meanwhile, Guerrero had a stretch of like 6 homers in 8 games where he was absolutely on fire. He got hot at just the right time, right as Mountcastle was struggling. So yeah, like you said, Paul, it's hard to argue with any of those decisions. I think that, all those guys certainly deserved to be finalists, but I think the voters
got it right too. Now that doesn't mean that some of these guys won't still be all-stars. Anthony Santander led the majors in home runs in the month of June. Jordan Westberg is the next best third baseman in the American League. Ryan O'Hearn has been so clutch. Every time he comes up and you need that hit recently, he's getting it. The guy's just been nails this entire season. I was wrong about him, and I'll be the first to admit I was 100% wrong. I thought last year was more the anomaly than the norm, and he's proving that last year he was just getting started.
By the way, just a little sidebar about Ryan O'Hearn. Can we talk about, we don't have to talk about, but I want to at least bring up, he went 3 for 3 in a start against the left-handed pitcher just last week against Andrew Heaney. Went 3 for 3 with 3 singles. One of them was hit at like 106 miles an hour. Really good to see from a guy who doesn't really get to face lefties to go 3 for 3 in a start where Mountcastle was, I guess,
sick.
Mountcastle
awesome missed like 3 or 4 games because he was sick. And that's one of the things about O'Hearn. It's like Brendan Hyde, he just has to match up. He has to match up, even if it doesn't make sense. We saw it twice in the game last night. We saw it in the game last night. Twice in back-to-back games. We saw it in the game last night, batting Arias. It worked out. We saw it the game before when he brought in Aiken to face the lefty, J.P. Crawford, who has an OPS 200 points higher against lefties than he does righties, despite being a left-handed hitter. It did not work out for the Orioles. No way. Keegan Aiken came in and gave up a big hit. What?
Even worse when you fall behind 3-0 and then have to groove a guy at 3-1 fastball right down the middle.
But Ryan O'Hearn, like he had gotten 11 at bats at one point. It was up to like 2 weeks ago. He had gotten 11 at bats against left-handed pitching this year, and he had 1 strikeout in those 11 at bats. Now he struck out a couple of times more recently, but for him to go 3 for 3 in that game, hopefully it shows that he should be playing a little bit more often than he is, and he's playing a lot. He hits third for this team against right-handed pitchers, so that's like 75% of the time he's in your lineup and he's batting third. But maybe he deserves, the occasional start against a left-handed pitcher, especially with the way Mountcastle is struggling. We're going to get a little bit more into Mountcastle here in a little bit.
Yeah, and last thing I want to say on that is the drop-off in first base defense from Mountcastle to O'Hearn is significant.
It absolutely is, which is a legitimate reason why he should still be in the lineup, maybe not in the middle of the order. We know being a finalist doesn't mean that you're an all-star. Oddly enough, you're one of the top 2 vote getters at the position, but you're not guaranteed to be on the all-star team. So, Ryan, who, if any, makes it among the 4 between Ryan Mountcastle, Jordan Westberg, Anthony Santander, and Ryan O'Hearn?
It's such a tough question to answer because we've seen, and I mentioned this last week as well, we've seen guys who deserve to be all-stars get snubbed because every team needs a representative. I'm not sure that, look, I think Santander deserves to be an all-star. He's top 3 or 4 in the American League in home runs. I think he's 1 behind Jose Ramirez right now. But you've got guys like Riley Green with the Detroit Tigers and Jarren Duran with the Boston Red Sox who are having all-star caliber years and deserve to get the nod in the outfield. So it's hard to look at that and, you wonder how many outfielders are they going to take? If they take 7 or 8, then yes, Santander is probably in. If they take 5 or 6, maybe not. Ryan O'Hearn, is he going to make it as a first baseman? Is he going to make it as a DH? I don't know if they typically carry a backup DH. Jordan Westberg has been excellent this year, but Rafael Devers is a much bigger name. Isaac Paredes is having a heck of a year. Josh Smith, if the Texas Rangers are going to have a representative, Josh Smith might be the front runner, and he's a third baseman. So maybe Westberg misses out because of that. You got Ryan Mountcastle, who came in second place at first base. Josh Naylor's having a heck of a season. Is he going to be an all-star? So it's really hard to look at the offense and predict who's going to make it just because there are so many other worthy candidates. I think if any of these guys miss out on the All-Star game, it won't be because they don't deserve it. It will be because, other teams need representatives. So to answer your question, I don't know. If I had to guess, I think we're going to see O'Hearn and Westberg.
I think if anybody makes it, I think it's those two that have the best shot. And even then, I don't know that it will be O'Hearn. I think Westberg will. I think they both deserve to be there. I think Westberg, if he's not there, it's an injustice. He has been really good. He's been really good while moving back and forth between second base and third base. He's been really good. Hits that double off the wall, 2 flyouts to the wall to the opposite field last night. The home run the game before. Jordan Westberg has been a very consistent player for this team. The power has shown up. The clutch stats are there. The defense has been there. He's got that sneaky speed on the bases where he can steal a bag if he needs to. Jordan Westberg is having an all-star caliber season, and I think he 100% deserves to be there. But like you said, Rafael Devers is Rafael Devers, and he's having a decent year too. He's got more home runs, a little bit. I think the batting average is a little bit lower for Devers.
Might be a little bit. He had a little bit of a rough start, but then he caught fire.
He's got more home runs, a higher batting average, comparable RBI. Just the one stolen base. I think Westberg has like 10 or like 8 or something like that. They're having very comparable seasons, and I think that Devers would probably get the nod because he's Rafael Devers. But right. Westberg deserves to be there. O'Hearn deserves to be there. You take away it's a lot to take away. Anthony Santander hit a bunch of home runs in June, but the rest of his stats weren't, otherworldly. I think he hit like 275 for the course of the month. It wasn't the player of the month. It was Aaron Judge again. By the way, National League and American League players of the month were the same 2 players in both May and June. Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper, both months. Yeah,
they're really damn good.
So yeah, I think that Westberg and O'Hearn had the best shot, and I think that Westberg ultimately will be the one that gets in amongst those position players. I think Corbin Burns is undoubtedly in, right? Like he might start. Although Soto over in Kansas City is having a great year. Is that his name? No, not Soto. Lugo.
Seth Lugo?
Lugo. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Plus, I think Burns is slated to start one of the weekend games against the Yankees the week before, so maybe the Orioles don't want him to actually pitch. But Burns is a shoo-in. And then we talked about Craig Kimbrell's case last week as well. And I think aside from that one bad week, he has been an elite closer.
He's having like vintage Craig Kimbrell season. ERA is more than a full run better at this point this year than it was last year when he was an All-Star. He had 12 saves at the All-Star break last year. He's got 23 saves now for the Orioles, which is second in the American League behind Class A. Kimbrell's going to be an All-Star. He's going to be there. And there was a guy, as soon as the Orioles signed him, and his Twitter handle was something like @CommonOsW or something like that. And he was hating on Craig Kimbrell and calling all of us idiots. And I told him, I was like, he's going to be an All-Star. He's going to be an All-Star, and you're going to look like an idiot. He has since deleted his Twitter handle. And so I can't find him pull up receipts, but I was waiting for Kimbrell to be. And look, we all had our moments with Kimbrell. There was a tweet from me back on May 8th where I said, look, he can't be your closer anymore. Like he can't. But he is, and he's been flourishing in that role to the point where now you don't even know if you need to bring in a closer. You need to bring in a legitimate back end arm so that you have options and you have that eighth inning guy, because Lord knows it ain't Cano anymore. And Coulomb ain't coming back till September at the earliest. So you do need to bring in relief help. But Kimbrell has been locking it down for the Orioles. That's 4 consecutive one-run saves. He started the year 0 for 4 in one-run saves, and he's now 4 for his last 5 saves overall. In the last week to 2 weeks, 4 of them one-run saves. So now Grayson Rodriguez is 10-3 with a 3.45 ERA. He's going to get. Let's see. He's going to get 2 more starts. before the All-Star break. If he gets to 11, 12 wins, can you justify him not being like if he gets there with like a 3.30 ERA and 12 wins at the break, how is he not an All-Star?
Well, the problem is the reserves and the pitching staffs are announced tomorrow. So Grayson basically has tomorrow. Well,
they announced him at like 8
sure
o'clock.
He can help his
case. He can help his case,
yeah.
But the problem is they probably already made the decision.
Yeah. So look, Grayson's going to be an all-star several times in his career. I'm not sure with a 3.4 ERA he gets the nod this year, unless, the coaching staff that is selecting these guys is looking more at wins. I don't know how old school they're going to be. But look, Grayson's been spectacular. I'm not sure he's an all-star only because, again, it's one of those things where, if you look at it in a vacuum, yeah, he's got all-star numbers. But again, every team needs a representative. There's a lot of pitchers who have a case. So, I kind of have a hard time seeing Grayson make the team over some of those guys. But, hey, if I'm wrong and if he's in, I would love to see it.
Look, you can make a case for half the roster being all-stars this year. They're not all going to be. And that's just the fact of the matter. So, end of the day, Grayson Rodriguez having a great season. I'd rather see him end the year with a 3.20 ERA and 18 wins and help the Orioles go win a World Series than say, oh, he was an all-star. And if he wins 18 games on a World Series contender, he'll be an all-star plenty in his careers. Corbin Burns going to be there. Craig Kimbrell likely going to be there. They've already got 2 starters, maybe have 2 more reserves. Like, they're going to have a ton of representatives, more than probably any other team in the American League. Let's give credit where credit's due and not lament the guys that could have been there but aren't, because that's going to happen every year with a roster that's this talented. Before we move on, did you miss anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Carl Ravitch, former Oriole Mike Bauman, and 4-star Maryland football quarterback commit Malik Washington? Well, you can find it all in the Glenn Clark Radio Weekend Review feature today at PressBoxOnline.com. I want to get to a couple of comments just because I want to get to them while they're relevant. Pigtown Sports says, would you trade Mountcastle for Dylan Floro and Kyle Finnegan? 100% yes. 100% yes. If you trade, and again, I love Ryan Mountcastle. I have always been a Ryan Mountcastle fan. But if he can get you 2 really solid relievers, and you have Ryan O'Hearn, and you can bring up Kobe Mayo. Santander can play first base. Ramon Arias can play first base in the pinch. You don't necessarily want him there, but like, if you can get 2 lockdown relievers for the back end of your bullpen for Ryan Mountcastle, I say you do it, because I don't know that he's here next year anyway. And if you can get 2 players that can help your team in the World Series this year, 100%, I say you do it. Your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree as well. I haven't been super in tune with the Nationals this season. I do know that they just optioned Joey Meneses to AAA, and I believe he was their regular first baseman. So there is a need there in DC. I'm pulling up the standings now to see where the
Nats lost last night. They're 40 and 47, I believe.
41 and 47. They're 5.5 out of a wild card spot in the National League.
They came out.
Right now.
I saw a rumor that said that or maybe not a rumor, but I saw something that was like pretty official that said that the Nationals are planning on trading Kyle Finnegan by the deadline this year.
Yeah, and Finnegan did blow a save last night. But that's it happens. Happens to everybody. Yeah, look, I think if you can get 2 really good relievers for Mountcastle, you have to do it, especially if you're going to have Kobe Mayo ready to come up and take his spot in the lineup. If you think O'Hearn can handle, left-handed pitching a little more often, over at first base, got to work on O'Hearn's defense because what Mountcastle brings to the Orioles defensively over at first base is huge. But yeah, I'm pulling the trigger on that. As tough as it is, I love Mountcastle. I hate to see a Ryan go unless his last name is McKenna, as a Ryan myself. But yeah, I think if that's on the table and if the Nationals are willing to take on more of a veteran instead of a prospect.
Yeah, and you look at what Dylan Floro's done. 1.87 ERA in 43 games, covering 43 and a third innings. He's given up no home runs this season. His ERA plus is 2.11. That's a guy, if you can get him, and he's 33 years old. It's not like this is a guy that the Nationals are going to build around. Kyle Finnegan's 30. I think he's 34. He's 23 27 in save opportunities with a 2.17 ERA after that blown save last year. And it dropped down to 1.98 before the blown save. If you can get those two guys for Ryan Mountcastle, that probably won't be the only thing that gets it done. But look, they have a controllable guy to play first base. The Nationals would that has some power. I think that they would make that move, and I think it's something that the Orioles absolutely need to explore. We were talking about Hunter Harvey potentially coming over to the Orioles in a trade, and he's completely fallen apart. He had a 2.68 ERA on June 19th. ERA has ballooned to 4.40 since then. He's allowed 10 earned runs on 12 hits in his last 7 outings, covering 6 innings pitched. So Hunter Harvey has pitched his way out of contention to be brought over here, and Dylan Flores pitched his way right in to an opportunity to get traded to a ball club like the Orioles. Would love to see it. Now, John Heyman also came out and reported that the Orioles have spoken with the White Sox about Garrett Crochet. My initial reaction was, duh. Michael Elias isn't doing his job if he doesn't have that conversation. Now, there's an executive last year. Right. I can't remember if it was in football or if it was in baseball. I think it was in baseball, where they said that when stuff like this is reported, the talks could be as basic as such and such team called and asked about such and such player, and we said no. And that's the beginning and end of that. But they had a conversation about him. So it could be as simple as that. What the Orioles are going to have to give up for Crochet is going to be really high, because they know that he's the best pitcher. The White Sox know he's the best pitcher on the market right now. And he's not going to finish the season in your starting rotation. So you're still going to have that hole for your rotation going into the playoffs. Now, look, Dean Kramer came back and was really good the other night. Just going to show that we can't read into a minor league rehab start because they're working on things. He even said, I was working on a couple different things in my rehab starts. He comes out in a big league ball game against a first place team and shuts the door on them. 5 shutout innings in his first start back. That helps.
How about Dean coming back with that nasty splitter? He threw it like 30% of the time, and it was pretty. It was effective. If that's a new weapon
Dean
in his
Kramer
arsenal,
was
watch out.
Absolutely fantastic the other day. And look, he could have gone deeper if they wanted to, let him go deeper. They're going to build his arm strength back up a little bit. So I was getting a little bit nervous because he was only touching like 92 with his fastball at a certain point. But look, he pitched really well. Now, albeit against one of the worst offensive teams in baseball, but he still managed to pitch really well in that game. 5 shutout innings. The Orioles do need a starter. I would love to have Garrett Crochet because of what he can do for the bullpen and what he can do in your rotation in the future. I don't think the Orioles want to pay the price to get him. But it leads me to ask you, what would it cost in terms of prospects and who in this organization that the Orioles, that are guys like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman are as untouchable as they come, right? But we're talking about prospects. Who, in your mind, Ryan, is untouchable in a trade?
I want to say Jackson Holliday and Samuel Basallo and Heston Kjerstad and Kobe Mayo, but realistically, I don't think any prospect should be untouchable because they are prospects. With that said, the Orioles have 4 elite guys in the 4 I just mentioned, and it's hard to part with any of them. But if you're going to get an arm like Garrett Crochet, I think you have to consider it. I think out of those 4 that I mentioned, I think Holliday is the most untouchable. Obviously, the arguably the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, despite his tough start when he, got to the majors. Basallo is very, very close to untouchable, but he's 19 years old. You don't know what you're going to get from him. There are some injury concerns with Basallo. Granted, he's been raking the last month, but he might be a DH. He might be a first baseman, and we don't even know if he can play first base yet. But you've got Adley Rutschman behind the plate. So if Basallo is going to be a trade piece, then I think you have to do it. Kobe Mayo is another guy who, I think has a clear role on this team, and he's another guy who is, hard to part with. And then you look at Kjerstad, we've got so many outfielders. But there's a chance that Mullins, Hayes, Santander are all gone. Maybe after this year, probably, Santander probably after this year. Hayes and Mullins, I believe, have 1 more year of arbitration, but they could always be non-tendered. You never know. So it's tough because I don't want to trade any of these prospects. But at the same time, depending on the return you're going to get, I don't think any of them can truly be untouchable because they are prospects. And if you can trade a prospect for a proven major league commodity, I think you have to do it.
I'd be willing to part ways with Basayo because I think he can bring back so much. I think you Basayo as a centerpiece.
I kind of lean that way as well.
Centerpiece of a package he can bring you back so much. And like, yeah, maybe he's not a catcher, maybe he's a first baseman if he can play first base. But you look at what the Orioles lineup is going to look like, and yeah, you would love to see a lineup that has 21-year-old Jackson Holliday playing second base, and 23 to 24-year-old Gunnar Henderson at shortstop, and 24-year-old Jordan Westburg at third base, and 22-year-old Kobe Mayo at first base, and 20-year-old Samuel Basayo DHing. Like, you would love to see that lineup, but the Orioles lineup can be really, 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 really good without Samuel Basayo. I think that Kobe Mayo is a guy, a right-handed power bat, that he has the power to take down Baltimore at any given night whenever he wants. I mean, the guy hits moonshots. That's a guy who I think needs to hit 4 for the Baltimore Orioles, maybe as soon as this coming week. Like, he won't hit 4th for this team until he proves that he can do it at the big league level. But that's a guy who hits in the middle of your lineup for the next decade. Samuel Basayo, we have plenty of left-handed bats that can hit the ball, that can hit baseballs on the Utah street. You have plenty of them. I'm willing to part ways with him. Heston Kjerstad, I think he plays right field every day for the Orioles next year. And I think he's a guy who pushes 40 home runs at the big league level. You have... It's super exciting to think about the fact that you have legitimately 3 guys that can be in your lineup next year that can hit 40 home runs. And then you have Jordan Westburg who can hit 30 and Adley who can push for 30. And then like what the Orioles lineup can be, like what it already is and what it can be for the next decade is absolutely bananas. It's crazy.
And it's interesting. I forgive me if I said this on the show last week. I don't remember if I said it on the show or to my friend at the game on Monday night, but I was thinking about the future of this team. Jackson Holliday could turn out to be a complete bust, and the Orioles would be fine. Like, that's crazy to think about. It's absolutely insane. And when you look at it that way, and you could say the same about Mayo or Kjerstad or Basayo, and I think that's why none of those guys are untouchable in trade talks, because even if they don't work out at the big league level,
I don't think that you can say that about Mayo or Kjerstad, because I think that I think that they profile at a position where the Orioles. I mean, like Jordan Westburg can play third base, right? Like really well, better than he plays second base. Kobe Mayo could play third base, and Westburg could move over to second, or Mayo could play first base. You don't really know. But what they can do offensively, Jackson Holliday I think Jackson Holliday ultimately will be a 300 hitter with 20 home run power at the big league level. He's not going to be a 40 home run guy that drives in 130 runs. And I think Kjerstad and Mayo can 100% be those guys. I think that the Orioles, the offense that they're building with those guys in the heart of their order is something that's going to be special. I mean, this is a team that's going to hit 300 home runs when in a season, maybe even this year.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely about the potential of Mayo and Kjerstad. I do agree 100% that they could be, 280, 40 home run, 120 RBI guys, but we don't know that they will be. And we've seen tons of guys who tear the cover off the ball all the way through the minors and then make it to the big leagues and can't figure it out. And I'm not saying that I think that's going to happen with any of our guys, because I think the Orioles player development staff is among the best in baseball. But with that said, we don't know for sure what they can do or what they will do at the big league level. And for that reason, I think if you can move one of them for a proven major league contributor, I think you have to at least, consider it. I'm not saying they should trade Mayo or Kjerstad because we haven't seen them prove themselves in the bigs. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying depending on the return, you consider it because We don't know for sure what they're going to
For
bring.
me, you look at what Texas has, right? And that's why I don't think that you need to move any of them. You can trade guys to Texas to get a Michael Lorenzen who's on a 2-year deal. And Michael Lorenzen, 15 starts, 87 innings pitched. He's 5-4 with a 3.21 ERA. He's under contract for this year and next year. Nathan Eovaldi, 14 starts, 80 innings pitched, 5-3 with a 3.15 ERA, and he's under contract. His contract is up at the end of this year. He's got a vesting option, I think, for $20 million in 2025. Like, you can have him. And then you also look at Max Scherzer, who's a free agent at the end of this year, and he might retire after this year. Now, he has no trade clause. He has a full no trade clause. There's not a doubt in my mind he would 100% waive that to come to the Baltimore Orioles. And you're going to tell me that you can't trade Ryan Mountcastle or, heaven forbid, Anthony Santander to the Texas Rangers as part of a package to get one of those guys, maybe two of those guys. And, I mean, the everyday DH, based on Baseball Reference, is Travis Jankowski, or it's Robbie Grossman. Grossman's slashing 210, 315, 290 with a 605 OPS. Travis Jankowski, 205, 254, 254 with a 508 OPS. Then you look at Adolis Garcia, 217, 284, 419, a 702 OPS plus. OPS. The Rangers need offensive firepower for that lineup. They do. And they need guys. Now, Santander, maybe not because he's a free agent at the end of this year, but you could trade Ryan Mountcastle and a middling prospect to maybe a Jordan Armbruster or, I don't know, a Dylan Beavers or somebody of the sort to the Texas Rangers in exchange for a Max Scherzer or a Michael Lorenzen or a Nathan Eovaldi and get that done, because they're 8 games out of their division and the wild card. And we're sitting here on July 6th. Their offense has been awful. Their pitching has been good. But do they honestly believe that they're going to catch? They could catch the Yankees. They've been in a tailspin, right? Are they going to catch Houston? Are they going to catch Seattle, who's going to add offense? I just don't think that the Texas Rangers are getting back into this thing. I just don't. I think that you can go out and get any of those 3 pitchers, maybe 2 of those 3 pitchers, and not have to give up anybody that you don't want to part with. For me, Texas Rangers, they should be the first team that the Orioles are calling for starting pitching. And then the Nationals should be the first team the Orioles are calling for relief pitching. Get some deals done, and let's get on with this thing. Also, Randall Fracase brings up a great point. You mentioned guys who are big-time minor league producers who haven't proven anything at the big league level, and people are going to want to kill me for saying this. Randall says, Cowser should be a trade chip well before Kjerstad. Maybe it's time Mountcastle becomes a trade chip. It's time Mayo comes up. Colton Cowser, in my opinion, I just don't think he's ever going to be the type of hitter that warrants being drafted 5th overall. I think he can be a 260 hitter who hits 25 home runs at the big league level, which is nice. That's a really good player. But I don't know that that's coming in the next couple of years. He's been struggling so mightily, but I think that he's been good enough that other teams look at him and they say, this dude's still got a sky-high ceiling, and I think he could really fetch you something nice in a trade. And I'm way more willing to trade Colton Cowser at this point than I am any of those 4 that we've talked about extensively today.
Sure. It's hard to disagree with that. I think the question mark that I would pose, that I would bring up, is if you trade Cowser, you're relying on Mullins to be your everyday center fielder because there's no one else on the roster who's going to fit that.
That is a 100% fair point.
And then Mullins is gone after this year or next. And are we sure Enrique Bradfield Jr. is going to hit enough to be a major league center fielder? I don't know. I think he's got the potential to, but again, he's a prospect. We don't know what he's going to bring. We know he's fast as hell. We know he plays incredible defense. Is he going to hit his weight in the majors? We don't know that. So if you trade Cowser, I agree that he's a good trade chip. But if you trade him, you're counting on Mullins returning to his 2021 form where he went 30-30 to be your everyday center fielder, because no one else is going to play good enough center field defense to make up for the loss of a guy like Colton Cowser if Mullins isn't going to be the guy he used to be. So that's the only counter argument for trading Cowser.
Here's the thing about Enrique Bradfield. He's at high A this year. 264, 342 batting average on base percentage. Slugging percentage 357. You didn't draft him to hit for power, right? You drafted him to get on first base. 342 on base percentage. He's getting on first base, 264 batting average. That's a decent batting average. 40 stolen bases. Problem is he's already 22 years old, right? When is he going to be ready? I also think, though, that his speed and his defense are so special. He's faster, in my opinion, than Jorge Mateo. He is an elite defender in center field. And I think that he has something to his game that Mullins has, but he rarely utilizes. And Mateo, for some reason, doesn't have it. And that's the ability to get a bunt down. And he hits a ground ball to the left side. All he's got to do is hit a ground ball to the left side, and he's going to have more than his fair share of infield hits. So for me, Enrique Bradfield, he's never going to go 30-30 like Mullins did, but Mullins is never going to sniff that again. Can you live with Cedric Mullins being the weakest part of your lineup next year, playing center field until Bradfield's ready, to have the rest of your lineup be to be surrounded by Kjerstad, Mayo, Westberg, Henderson, Holiday, Rutschman, Basayo, O'Hearn? Can you have those hitters? Bananas. And then your number 9 hitter is Cedric Mullins, who, when he gets going, like Brandon Hyde said, and it's true, this is a completely different offense when Cedric Mullins is going. I mean, you can live with Cedric Mullins being the one weak link. And I know we talked a lot about Cedric Mullins and how weak his offense has been this year, but that was also because you had Colton Cowser having the same stat line as Mullins for a 2-month period. You had Jorge Mateo and Ramon Arias clogging up spots. You're talking about a roster where he is the weak link. He is the weak link on your team. I think you can live with that to keep the rest of those guys, especially if you don't have to trade any of those guys to get legitimate starting pitching to make a run of the World Series this year. And then go out on free agency next year, and there's going to be guys available and, re-sign Corbin Burns. It's a lot. It's a lot. Your team has a lot of money to spend, not a ton of guys with huge contracts. To me, it's a no-brainer to keep some of these guys when you can go to a team like Texas and say, hey, we'll give you this, this, and this for these guys who are probably not on your team next year anyway. To me, it's a no-brainer, but we'll see how things go. We're getting closer and closer to the deadline. We're 3 weeks away, 24 days to be exact, from the trade deadline. And it's going to be, I think the Orioles are going to have a really exciting deadline.
A lot of moving parts.
All right. The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Maryland Governor Wes Moore sits down with Press Box to discuss the sports topics significant to his administration, including the stadium and grounds lease for the Orioles, the future of horse racing in the state, and much more. Also, this is our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities throughout the state that you and your family can take advantage of this summer. You can find the new Press Box all throughout the region, including at 60 Royal Farm stores, and read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Available now on the website. All right, Ryan, rolling right along here. You've got a soft toss, and sometimes when we're this late in the show, I'd say let's save it for another time, but I see Manny Machado, and I love Manny Machado, so let us have it.
Yeah, this will be a quick one. Manny Machado had a walk-off 2-run homer last night for the San Diego Padres. It was part of a 4-for-5 night for Machado. He started the season pretty rough. He was coming back from an injury. He wasn't playing third base regularly. The offensive numbers weren't great. But in his last 30 games, he's OPSing 925. And in his last 15, he's OPSing over 1,100. So I just wanted to give some love to Manny Machado. I'll always have a soft spot for him, and I love to see him succeed. So I wanted to give a little shout out to the former Oriole and possibly future Hall of Fame third baseman Manny Machado. He's been a big part of the Padres' recent success. He's helped catapult them into the second wild card spot in the National League. They're on a nice, significant stretch run here, and Machado has been a big part of that, especially offensively for them. Love to see Machado succeed. Just wanted to give him a little love.
Manny Machado is one of my all-time favorite Orioles. I will always have a soft spot for Manny. He gets a lot of hate for stuff that he did when he was really, really young. Now look, what he did with with the Dodgers as part of during the 2018 playoff run left a lot to be desired from a emotional and maturity standpoint. But I love Manny. I love what he's doing, and it will still be, in my opinion, one of the biggest travesties that this organization has ever done, self-inflicted, by not re-signing him. You keep Manny Machado and you sign him long term. 2018 doesn't change. They still have the worst record in baseball. They still end up with Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. They may still end up with some of the same guys. Maybe they don't have Heston Kjerstad or Colton Cowser because of 2020. Or because of what would have happened in 2019. But now you're looking at Manny Machado playing third base, Gunnar Henderson at shortstop, and Jordan Westburg at second base. Maybe you don't have Jordan Westburg. I don't know. But you still have Rutschman behind the plate. Like Manny Machado, I feel like you see him slowing down. He has slowed down this year, but he's 2 years removed from being an MVP finalist in a season where if the Padres had done anything noteworthy, he would have been the MVP. Right. Love Manny Machado. Love that he's finally getting things back. He had an elbow injury to start the year too. They had who do they have playing third base?
I don't remember. I know Machado was DHing when he came back.
I feel like Wade was this guy's last name. Is it Tyler Wade who was playing third base?
Is he still a Padre?
I think Tyler Wade was playing third base for the Padres when the season started. Tyler Wade. Yeah, he plays for the Padres. Yeah, he was playing third base for them when the season started because Machado had the elbow injury. And now Machado's back. He's hitting fourth and tearing the cover off the ball again for the team. I saw him hit that home run last night. God, if any home run was ever pimped, and deservedly so, that home run was pimped last night. Machado leaned so far back in admiration, you thought he was going to fall over. It was, and he's giving his teammates high fives on the way to first base. It was awesome. Amazing. That Padres team, maybe it's just me. I love those fluorescent uniforms. Their City Connects. I love them.
Oh, they're City Connects. Yeah, I think they're the best in baseball.
But it was really cool. And I'm not a big pimp a home run guy. If you do it, cool. But I'm not big on that. But the way that he did it was just awesome, man, because it's Manny, and I just love Manny. But that really one of my favorite soft tosses, Ryan, just because Manny Machado, I absolutely love Manny Machado. And when he came back to Baltimore in his first season with the Padres, and he hit a 465-foot home run that he smoked. My wife and I, Laura, we went to both those games wearing our Machado jerseys, and he's interacting with the crowd, throwing baseballs to the crowd and all that. He embraced coming back and the love that the city has for him so much that I'll never forget that. I will never in my life forget that. I just thought it was awesome. So Manny Machado.
Please, David Rubenstein and the rest of the new ownership group and the front office, please do not let the same thing happen to Gunnar Henderson.
Absolutely, you can't.
Machado, please. Check
you can't
that man.
You can't come
as
in
soon as possible
with your first offer and have it be anything less than 40 to 50 million a year. You can't. He's arguably the best player in baseball. Nobody's got a higher WAR. Nobody. And we're talking. And this is even still with Gunnar Henderson having 9 strikeouts and 11 at bat and then in the 11 at bat stretch earlier this week.
Yeah, this dude had a 3-game slump and then immediately comes out and goes 3 for 5, was a triple shy of the cycle. It's he was yeah, I'm not going to slump anymore. I'm sorry. Yeah, 3 days 100%. Is long enough.
All right, AL East wrap up time. Rangers 3.
Well, while you do this, I'm going to hit the restroom real quick. I've had a lot of coffee and a lot of water. So
Rangers 3, Rays nothing. Shane Baz delivered a quality start in his return to the Rays rotation, but it was the Rangers pitching staff that stole the show as Michael Lorenzen went 5 scoreless and the bullpen completed the shutout. A 3-run third inning for Texas was the extent of the scoring in this one as the Rangers took down the Rays 3-0. Kevin Gausman struck out 10 in 6 innings, but allowed a pair of runs while Luis Castillo took a no-hitter into the 6th, as the Mariners were able to provide just enough offense by way of a Luke Raley 2-run double. Kevin Kiermaier provided a solo Jays run with a solo shot as the Mariners edged out the Jays 2-1. Clay Holmes had the Red Sox down to their final out before Masataka Yoshida tied the game at 3 with a 2-run homer in the 9th. Then Ceddanne Rafaela put the Sox ahead with another 2-run shot in the top of the 10th as the Red Sox stunned the Yankees in the Bronx 5-3. Yankees were a strike away from a 3-1 victory in the 9th inning before giving up two-run homers in the 9th and 10th innings. The Yankees have dropped 4 in a row and 14 of their last 18 overall, while Boston has won 5 in a row and 15 of their last 20 to jump into the third AL wildcard spot. They are just 4.5 games behind the evil empire. The Orioles had a 5-game losing streak. The Orioles were 2 games back after taking 2 or 3 from the Yankees. It was a game and a half back. Then during that 5-game losing streak, they went to like 3 games back of the Yankees. And now the Orioles are 3 games up on the Yankees. That's how bad that team has been. And your boy sat here back in May when everybody was, oh, the Yankees are amazing. They're amazing, blah, 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 blah. And I said, when the season ends, the Orioles are going to be in first place. They're going to win this division because the Yankees have 2 hitters that are better than the Orioles players. And they're old and they're beat up. Sure enough, they're collapsing. Just like in 2022, when they started the season historically good, they were 61-23 through 84 games, and then they went 38-40 the rest of the way. They're having a similar collapse this year, and I am here for it. Yeah. For today's game, Cade Povich will take the hill for the Orioles this afternoon. Povich recorded his first big league win last Saturday with a 5-inning, 2-run performance against the Texas Rangers. He is 1-2 with a 4.05 ERA in his first 5 major league starts. The Athletics will counter with 25-year-old Luis Medina, who is 1-3 with a 4.80 ERA in. A 4.80 ERA in 6 starts this season. Hang on one second. Sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. Medina went 6 innings of 1-run ball against Arizona his last time out. He has faced the Orioles once in his career, pitching 3 innings in relief and allowing 4 runs, 3 earned, on 5 hits in Oakland last August. We never have the Orioles lineup. They actually are still playing at 4:07 today, despite the fact that they're on the West Coast. Last night was against the lefty, so it's probably not going to look similar to what it did last night. I think that this lineup is fairly accurate. Henderson at shortstop, Adley Rutschman leading off, Adley Rutschman batting second at catcher, Ryan O'Hearn batting third, playing first base, Anthony Santander batting fourth, DHing, Heston Kjerstad batting fifth, playing right field, Jordan Westbrook batting sixth, playing second base, Cedric Mullins batting seventh, playing center field. Austin Hayes batting eighth, playing left field. Ramon Arias batting ninth and playing second base. I do think that we could see, I think you could flip them, Santander in right field and Kjerstad DHing. And I think that we could see Calzer get another start in left field, although Hayes going 3 for 4 last night. But Hyde doesn't seem to care about a great performance. Sometimes he will. No. He'll be like, oh, this guy, like with the wrong players, like, oh, Ramon Arias had 2 hits last night. Let's start him again. But like he loves Colton Cowser's defense. It could be Hayes. So I think this line is pretty accurate. I like the idea of giving Mountcastle the day off, but he also and Hyde's correct in thinking that guys don't get out of slumps by sitting on the bench. And maybe I don't know. Mountcastle, if we know it, they know it. The Mountcastle's coming up on a month without a home run. So
yeah,
I think that this lineup could be fairly accurate. I do think you're going to see Santander in right field, though Kjerstad has played really well in the outfield. I thought. He's made some really nice catches, some nice running catches, some sliding catches. His throws have been accurate. Now you have to wonder, are some of these catches made more difficult because he's not as great at getting there in a more timely fashion? Yeah, I don't have it trained enough of an eye to be able to make that call one way or the other. But
Yeah, I will say though, I was concerned. He got a couple starts out in left field at Camden Yards, and I was worried that that's a lot of ground to cover, and he
Yeah,
seemed to handle it
he
very
really
well.
did. And then he made a really nice play running into the net in Seattle in right field. So we'll certainly see what the line's going to look like, but I think that that's a fairly accurate depiction. I want to remind you that today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone and buyatoyota.com. While high school sports season has come to an end for this year, County Sports Zone will be providing great high school sports content all summer long. For the latest in coaching changes, football previews, and more, check out countysports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. There's something about this time of year when you know that football camps are getting started. They're right around the corner. The Ravens are going to be at training camp in like a week. And I don't know. I think their first full squad workout is July 15th, so a week from Monday. I like the fall. I like the weather in the fall. I like hoodie weather. I do. I hate the winter. I hate the winter so passionately that it really knocks the fall down more than a peg or two for me. But
that's exactly how I feel. I enjoy the fall weather, but I hate when fall comes around because that means winter is right behind it.
Yeah,
and I hate the cold. Can't stand it.
You're a skinny guy, man. So you probably get really cold.
I do. And unless there's like a foot of snow on the ground, I don't even need that.
Like, get the snow out of my face. If we have a really cold winter but no snow, I'm cool. I don't have to shovel it. It's not going to prevent me from doing anything. Like, unless I'm going skiing, or I'm taking my daughter sledding, or taking Bruce out to play in the snow. So I guess I'm going to start to like snow again. So that stuff's going to be a real thing. Watching Bruce play in the snow because the first year we had him, it didn't snow. It did not snow at all. So this past year, watching Bruce get to run around and play in the snow for like an hour and a half with the neighbor's kid, that was so much fun. Like, Bruce was like in his element. So I loved it for that. I hated that I had to go out there a lot this past year and shovel snow. But
shoveling sucks. But if I can play in the snow and go to the local big hill and ride a sled down a few times with my godson and my wife and hang out with some of my cousins, like, that's what it's all about for me. That's the only way I'll tolerate the winter is if there's snow that I can enjoy.
Well, now we get to enjoy what's on tap. I'll let you do this one.
Sure. Yeah, the O's will wrap up their series in Oakland with a 4:10 Eastern time start tomorrow. It'll be Grayson Rodriguez taking the mound for the Orioles in search of his team-leading 11th win of the season. For the A's, it'll be rookie Mitch Spence. He is 5-4 with a 4.15 ERA. Then the Orioles will have Monday off before returning to Camden Yards for 3 with the Cubs and 3 more with the Yankees before they hit the All-Star break.
If the Orioles don't sweep Oakland, is the West Coast trip still a success? If they go 4-2, is that a success?
Yeah.
It has to be, right? To play 667 ball on a West Coast trip has to be. But it's also like I can see looking at not sweeping Oakland in Oakland, especially after didn't they lose 2 or 3 to them in Baltimore?
Was it 2 or 3 or 2 or 4? Or the Yankees split with them and then we lost 2 or 3. I believe.
Yeah. After losing, I think you have to sweep them. Gain more ground on the Yankees, put more distance between the two of you. And then you got a Cubs team that is absolutely reeling. Did they lose last night?
I can check on that real quick.
Because if the Cubs lost last night, that's 14 of 17 that they will have lost.
The Cubs last night, they beat the Angels 5-1.
5-1.
Justin Steele pitched a complete game.
So now, oh, that's right. 95 pitches he threw Maddox. And Zach Bollinger and I were talking about, he posted Michael Elias there with the hood on in that rain game in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Justin Steele pitching great while the Cubs are having a bad season. He's under team control through 2028. Could the Orioles go get him? He's going to cost a lot.
Oh, a ton.
He will cost a lot.
Is a Maddox, does it have to be a shutout or just a compllit game under 100 pitches?
A complete game under 100 pitches.
Okay, so yeah, he did give up a run, so still counts as a Maddox. I wasn't sure.
I don't know though. Does it have to? I don't think it has to be a shutout. I think it just has to be a complete game under 100 pitches.
The thing is, most complete games we see nowadays are shutouts. So
That's the only reason they keep guys in. But when you're cruising, like if Corbin Burns were to exit the 8th inning at 87 pitches, I don't know what the pitch count was for Steele yesterday, but if Corbin Burns exits the 8th inning at 90 pitches, do you think that he's like telling Brandon Hyde would be like, all right, you're done. Burns would be like, no, dude, let me get this complete game. I have to imagine that he would be fighting for that.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe. Although
it's interesting. I just looked up. Sorry, go ahead.
He did say after the start in Seattle, he's like, I pitched a lot longer than I expected to.
Yeah, it depends. There's I'm sure there's a part of him that doesn't want to overextend because he is, going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Doesn't want to risk injury. So I don't think
it's also like there are times like we have a game tomorrow and it's hotter than the devil's taint outside. And like when I took Bruce out at 9:00 in the morning, it felt ungodly hot today. And my game's at 8:30, and if I have to pitch tomorrow, I'm going to throw up. Like, it is so tough to pitch in that kind of heat. Like, your arm feels great, but it is ungodly hot. That could have been what was happening with him.
Just pull a Hunter Green. He puked on the mound in back-to-back starts.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I interrupted. You were in the middle of saying something.
I was just going to say, I was looking up a Maddox. On MLB.com, it says a Maddox is a start in which a pitcher tosses a complete game shutout on fewer than 100 pitches. There's an article from Call to the Pen, which I think is a fan-sided site. It says it's now popularly defined as pitching a complete game in fewer than 90 pitches, which I had never heard before.
Oh, I don't know. Maddox has done some of those in like fewer than 80 pitches. He was so damn good.
Yeah.
God, he was good. All right, take the rake. Ryan, you took Gunnar Henderson. I took Jordan Westburg. Gunnar Henderson last week, 259 with a 259 on base percentage, a 444 slugging, 704 OPS. He went 7 for 27, 2 doubles, a home run, 2 RBIs, 11 strikeouts, no walks. Jordan Westburg, 208, 417, 625, 5 for 24, 2 doubles, 1 home run, 1 RBI, 5 Ks, 0 walks. Neither of them had a good week. But even when Gunnar has a bad week by his standards, he still won take the rake for you.
I think. Do you think I think they watched the show last week and knew that they were take the rake, which is why neither of them drew a walk because they wanted to rake so badly.
That had to have been it. We are so popular that the players on the team are watching it. So like, there's that jackass who seems to hate Colton Cowser and talk shit about any player that goes into a slump, and then there's that guy who loves everybody on the Orioles and has a cool ass mustache. Let's watch their show, and then if they pick us for take the rake, let's just swing out of our shoes all week.
I love everybody on the Orioles now that, I was going to say now that McKenna's gone, but there's still a few lingerers.
Is he playing anywhere?
McKenna?
Yeah.
He was picked up by San Francisco and didn't last long out there.
He got DFA'd. Did he stick with them?
I have no clue. I don't care enough to follow the path of his career unless he's going to be hitting 15 homers a season on the San Francisco Giants. I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah, no, I get that. Let's see where he is right now. Now, I'm just interested to know. Like, I can't imagine he's just not playing.
Yeah, he's got to be somewhere.
He's only played 4 games. I don't think he's playing anywhere. He only played 4 games in their minor league system, and he had no hits. I think he was just outright released, and he hasn't been picked up by anybody. Go ahead. Who you got?
Oh, shoot. I forgot to think. Let's see. We got a bunch of lefties coming up. Against Chicago and the Yankees. I think 4 out of 6 left-handed starters. You know what, Paul? I'm going to take a pretty significant risk here. And it may come back to bite me, and it may give you a free win this week. I'm going to take Coby Mayo. I think Mayo gets called up for Monday's series. I think he has a little run of success before the All-Star break. It's very bold. It might be the boldest take to rake pick in the history of the bat around.
I don't know. That time that you picked Rougned Odor was pretty significant.
That's true, but at least he was on the roster when I picked him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Coby. I got a feeling, man. I think he's up in a couple days, and I think he's gonna have a good week.
Taking the best hitter against left-handed pitching in baseball, Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. Although I typed him in as Adkey Rutschman. Adley Rutschman, take the rake. Book it. Book this one to Paul. Coby Mayo.
I can't wait for my slash line next week to be 0, 0, 0, 0 home runs.
Games played.
Yep. But hey, if it works, I'm gonna look like a mad genius.
If you pick Kobe Mayo, and A, he gets called up, and B, he hits like 280 with 2 home runs in his first week, even if Adley beats him, you win.
I'll take that.
You win. I will tell you right now, if Kobe Mayo comes up and puts up anything 280 and above with anything, it's the most epic call in the history of Take to Rake. I will gift you that win.
Okay.
Unless Adley hits 600 this week with 4 home runs, I will gift you the win if Kobe Mayo gets called up and hits 280 plus and has a home run or 2. Is that fair?
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair. Call on your shot with a guy who's not even on the roster yet. If that happens, unbelievable. It will be the greatest moment in Take to Rake history.
Shoot or shoot, baby. You heard it here first.
Aside from Zach Goodman's first ever Take to Rake season victory as a walk-off.
Right.
That's the only reason. That's the only reason he quit the show. He knew he was going to win. He's like, look, I may never win again. I got to go out as a champion. He told me this in private.
I don't blame him.
He did not. All right. All right, Kobe Mayo. I deep down love it. I didn't think with the amount of lefties the Orioles are facing, not taking Rutschman kind of blows my mind. But the fact that you went out on a limb like that's big D energy right there. And I'm here for it.
I just took a slight lead in the standings. I'm going to see if I can increase that lead by virtue of being lucky with the call here. Adley, definitely the smart pick. But it's going to be interesting. I really hope we see him sooner rather than later. And hey, if they want to go into the All-Star break on a nice little run, I think Mayo adds a jolt to the lineup. So we'll see.
I think he does too. Now, we do know that the gap from AAA to the majors is the biggest gap in all professional sports. It's the biggest jump, right?
Especially now that every pitcher throwing 98 mile an hour sinkers and 90 mile an hour splitters, they're all in the bigs. None of them are at AAA.
What I will say is, in his first taste of pro ball after getting drafted, I saw Kobe Mayo hit like a double in the Florida Complex League. And I was like, oh my God, that swing is so pretty. Like I got a chill when I saw his first professional swing for a hit. It was just so pretty. He does have swing and miss, but Kobe Mayo is one of those guys. I think that power is transcendent. Yeah. Like I am so here for this, man. I may be more excited about his debut than just about any other, like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, obviously, but like definitely more excited than I was for Holiday. Holiday, I was nervous about. Kerstad, I'm like, is he going to hit here? Same thing with Kalzer. Kobe Mayo, it's not a matter of if he hits, it's a matter of when, and I cannot wait to see that power in this Orioles lineup.
Oh, yeah.
All right, some fan interaction before we get going here. O's are getting, from Pigtown Sports, O's are getting 206 out of the center field position and 218 out of second base and 229 out of the catcher position. That's not good. It's crazy because he's not wrong about the catcher position. Adley's best stats come when he's DHing.
Yeah. But that's also because he's facing lefties when he DHs because McCann's getting the starts.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that has more to do with him being off his feet for the game or more to do with the fact that he's absolutely raking lefties this year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's notable for sure.
It's crazy how much better he was against. That's a cat. Type in standing Swiss.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I was trying to grab her off the keyboard. It didn't work.
S's, you finish up and get the hell out of here. Remember that Dane Cook thing? He had a roommate, S's. Look, Adley Rutschman. Look, if Adley Rutschman, I'm not worried about catcher at all. Yeah. Like your backup catcher is never going to hit, and Adley's doing enough with the bat regardless. And he's still surprisingly the on base percentage is only 342 for Adley. That's surprising to me. His walks are way down from last year, but
they're creeping up recently though.
They're creeping up recently, but the batting average and the power is up from last year. And now he's starting the All-Star game. I'm okay with catcher. He's right about second base. He's right about center field. The Orioles don't really have a lot of options. Yeah, you're getting elite defense no matter who's out there. Yeah. Pigtown Sports also says Billy Cook will get a shot before Holiday this year. Billy Cook is tearing the cover off the ball.
Isn't he on the IL right now?
Did he get hurt? I know he was.
Yeah.
Did he get hurt again?
I'm not sure. Oh, wow. I'm now covered in cat hair. Beans a shedder.
Billy Cook, Orioles. That is a great question.
But yeah, Cook is raking. If he is out right now and it's going to be a short-term thing and he'll be back soon, I could definitely see him getting a shot.
60 games, 8 home runs, 12 doubles, 263, 363, 439, 802. I don't know if they're going to call up an outfielder though. I don't know that they're going to call up an outfielder. And does he play center field?
I don't believe so. I could be wrong.
He's got 9 games in center field this year.
Yeah, I think 9. He's more of a corner
and
guy.
Not 9 in left field. And he's a first baseman. He's got 40 starts at first base.
Yeah. I mean, if Mountcastle or Hayes really starts to scuffle, I mean, we don't know if Mountcastle's dealing with vertigo again, but I think even if he does get hurt, I don't know how Cook's defense is over at first base, but if Mountcastle's not going to be your guy, I'm fine with O'Hearn over there as your regular first baseman. But hey, look, if they want to give a guy like Billy Cook some run, I'm all for it.
No, for sure. I want to see how many games Kobe Mayo has at first base. I know that he played first base earlier this week. He's listed as a third baseman and a first baseman. He has got a grand total of 10 starts, 10 games, 10 starts at first base. I think that's the only thing that where Mayo, maybe he doesn't come up because they would have to play first base.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I think he would play third with West. He would play third.
No, I think he'd be a fine first baseman, but he's got an elite arm. He's got a cannon attached to his right shoulder. Granted, I know he hasn't been the most accurate with his throws this year, but I think turning Mayo into a first baseman would be a waste of an elite tool.
It absolutely would be. And it's really a shame that Heston Kjerstad couldn't take to playing first base, because you could make Kobe Mayo a corner outfielder with that cannon. And now you've got a left fielder or a right fielder who's got a cannon for an arm who hits 40 home runs. Man, what a waste. Anyway, let's get him up here first. Randall Fracase, Kansas City taught the O's the speed in the outfield is everything. Yeah, no, it's true. Let's not talk about that, though. He also says Seattle still needs bats. Yeah, they absolutely do. Their best hitter is Julio Rodriguez, and he's going to get going. He started to get going in that last game of the series against the Orioles. But
yeah. I mentioned last week, is Seattle going to trade with a fellow American League division leader, a team that they might face in the playoffs?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I don't know where they're going to get. I guess there are bats out there to be had. The game log, you look at. Yeah, I mean, he's got hits. Julio Rodriguez has hits in 4 of his last 5, but he just went 1 for 4 with a single last night. Would you trade Jackson Holliday and Samuel Basallo to the Mariners for Julio Rodriguez and Gilbert? I think I would.
Yeah, probably.
I think I would. You get a guy under team control who's as nasty as Gilbert is. You get a guy with elite power and defense in center field for a guy who we don't know what his position is going to be, who's just 19 years old, and Jackson Holliday, who we've already established the Orioles. He's an embarrassment of riches for the team. You know what I mean? I think I would do that. I think I would make that, as much as it would hurt to lose both of those guys in the same trade, to lose them both in general. I think if you got that kind of talent down back, how can you say no? In fact, if I'm Mike Elias, let me make that phone call. Let me make that phone call. But, hey, I'll give you Holliday and Basallo for Julio Rodriguez and Paul Gilbert.
It's crazy to think about. By the way, you've called him Paul Gilbert twice.
Logan Gilbert. Where the hell am I getting Paul Gilbert from? Is Paul Gilbert even a person?
I don't know. It's your own name. I don't know.
Paul Gilbert.
It's a very interesting proposal. I don't think it's going to happen in a million years.
Oh,
but I would at least consider it.
He was the co-founder, guitarist for Mr. Big. I think they did the song. I'm the one that wants to be with you. Paul Gilbert, American guitarist. My bad. I have called him Paul Gilbert twice. The first time it didn't register to me. The second time I said that, I'm like, that's not his name. Randall says, I say no to Crochet. I don't say no to Crochet. I say no to Crochet if you got to give up more than one of your top prospects, because he's not going to stay in your rotation. And yeah, he helps your bullpen, but you still have that need in your rotation. He helps you next year are we looking to add somebody who's going to help us next year, or a guy who's going to help us this year? Because I think they can get help in the off season for next year. I want to see them go win a World Series this year and then revamp the roster with free agent additions next year.
Yeah, it's tough. And Ace had a comment a couple later where he says he agrees with Randall on that regarding the innings worry me too much for this postseason. Yeah, that's the only real question mark for me with Crochet is the longevity. Like he's already passed his career high in innings. He's likely going to be moved out of the rotation into the bullpen. Is he still going to be able to pump 99, 100 miles an hour? Is he still going to be as effective as he has been this year? Is he still going to be striking out as many guys? We don't know. That's a huge question mark. And to give up, an elite prospect for that, I'm not sure is worth it, especially if there are going to be, other options out there. But, if Crochet's a guy they want, I think they're going to give up one of those elite prospects, just a matter of who. But yeah, we'll see.
Randall says Basayo for Miller straight up. That's not happening. That's not enough. He also says Santander and Mountcastle to Seattle for Gilbert, who has 2.5 years of this year. There's no chance that happens. There's one, I don't think that the Orioles are trading Santander. I wouldn't be against it, but I don't think they're trading him. Two, he's free agent at the end of the year. Mountcastle profiles okay he fairly nicely as an offensive player. That's not enough to get a guy like Logan Gilbert. It just isn't. A guy like Paul Gilbert, because the guy just shreds on guitar and he's a nasty pitcher. It's not enough.
Yeah. We saw what a musically inclined player can do for the vibes of a team with Jose Iglesias singing his song out in New York. So adding Paul Gilbert to Seattle could improve their or adding Paul Gilbert to the Orioles could improve the vibes.
You're forgetting what Bernie Williams did for the Yankees in the mid to late 90s. Bernie Williams is like an acclaimed recording artist, and he was like a legitimate all-star center fielder for them. Everyone is forgetting about Stowers. Nobody's forgetting about Stowers. Stowers is a 260 hitter at the minor league level with a ton of power and a ton of strikeouts. At the big league level, he's like a 230 guy who he might run into 20 home runs for you, but he's going to strike out a lot. The defense is okay, but he also he gets to a lot of baseballs, but his track to get there is his route to get there is makes you super nervous. It looks like he could fall over or get hit in the head by the ball at any time, and then somehow he catches it. I like Kyle Stowers. I think that he profiles at best a starting outfielder on a really bad team and a fourth outfielder on a good team.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of trade value there for a team that would be able to slot him into an everyday role right away. But you're not getting an elite starting pitcher for him.
I mean, he could be part of a package.
He could be a complimentary
you might
piece
be able to
package,
send him to Miami with somebody with another mid-level prospect to get Tanner Scott. Which I wouldn't halo. Scott's back to walking 6.5 guys per 9 again. But we're not forgetting about him. He just, I don't know. Honestly though, the rumors are that the Orioles aren't willing to part with their top 4 prospects if they can. So it might mean that Kyle Stowers is one of their bigger trade chips, and somebody's going to say this dude has elite raw power. Let's get him. Now the next comment is from Daniel Pitts. People keep saying Mullins is just in a slump. He has hit 218 in his last 162 games. That's true. However, if you go back, and we're not going to start at June 1st because he went 0 for June until June 9th. We'll go from June 9th to this point right now. And I think that Mullins is back in a slump right now, personally.
He's 3 for his last 19 or something.
Since June 9th, Mullins is slashing 338, 372, 595, 966. That's 23 games, 19 starts. He's 25 for 74, 6 doubles, 2 triples, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, and a hit by pitch. 4 stolen bases. He did get caught stealing on back-to-back stolen base attempts, back-to-back games. But we're coming up now on a full calendar month where Cedric Mullins has actually been tearing the cover off the ball. Is he ever going to be 2021 Cedric? No, but I think he could be 2022 or first half of 23 Cedric Mullins. And again, I think that that's somebody who really can help this team this year and next year if you want to trade Colton Cowser, but I don't think that they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna trade Cowser.
Yeah, it's definitely been more than just a slump for Mullins, but he has been, picking it up a little bit recently, and the defense is still elite.
Sure.
That hasn't changed.
Always have love for Manny, but I hate the Padres. It's easy to hate the Padres. Like, I tried to make them my National League team because Manny was there, but for some reason, there's something about that team that I just can't stand.
I disagree. They are my National League team.
What I can't stand about them is what I couldn't stand about the Brewers, right? Like, well, maybe not. Like, I couldn't stand Willy Adames because the Brewers were like, Willy Adames is a good player. He shouldn't be the difference maker on a team, right? I don't think Willy Adames should be the difference maker on the team. And the fact that you were just Willy Adames away from having the best record in the National League after you traded for him a couple of years ago and then making the playoffs, that was all it took. Like, why aren't you doing more for your city? With the Padres, and I don't hate them. Why I'm starting to dislike them is they have so much talent and they're a very mediocre team. How the hell does that happen? Especially
they're very poorly run.
Bob Melvin's the manager, right?
It's
how do you have Bob Melvin as your manager? You have Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and and Yu Darvish and
Jake Cronenworth and Jackson Merrill
and Musgrove in your rotation and how are you not better? Yeah. Like, they're above 500 now. That was a nice win for them last night. They're a wild card team right now. How are you not better? Like, that's why that's kind of why I don't like the Padres. I don't hate them, but
yeah. Well, I think the way we differ in that is I pick a team that I want to see succeed, and the Padres fit that bill for me. I don't root for them religiously. I don't care if they finish the season under 500.
It doesn't bother me last year. They got to 500 and took winning like 20 of the last 23 games or something like that to do it. It was something ridiculous. But Adit, what is a better indicator for postseason offensive success? Trying to create as much traffic on the base paths for opposing pitchers, or something closer to the current O's approach? I think making a pitcher work, getting guys on base, finding ways to get them in without having to get a base hit or hit a home run is a better way. If you can make the starting pitcher for the opposing team work, and you have a guy like Corbin Burns who can get you deep into games. I don't know what just happened with my internal chest right there, my diaphragm, but something weird just happened there. It culminated in a burp, so I apologize. If you can make a starting pitcher work, get to a bullpen, unless it's Cleveland, I think that's the approach that there should be. The Orioles clearly have the approach where launch angle and let's just mash the hell out of the baseball and we'll win more often than not. I don't think that works in the postseason. I don't think you can take a team and have them go up against a legitimate starting rotation in the postseason and expect them to just drop bombs. The Orioles have proven that they can hit just about anybody, but all or nothing home run thing, like 56% of the Orioles runs score on home runs. And I don't have as much a problem with that as everybody else seems to have, but I do think that they need to be able to play small ball more. And I think we see far too often them get runners on first and third with one out, or bases loaded with one out, or nobody out, and not score, or only score one run. And I don't think that's acceptable.
Yeah, you've got to be able to hit situationally, and that's a reason why the Orioles only put up 3 runs last night, because they weren't doing that. They went, I think, 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. I think in terms of the postseason, I have a similar answer to you. I think it depends a lot on the strength of the opposing team's bullpen, right? Like, if you're facing Cleveland, making the starter work and throw 100 pitches in 5 innings is meaningless, because even if you're able to make the guy work and get to the bullpen early, they've got 6 guys who can come in and strike out the side. And so I don't think there's a lot of value in, trying to make a guy throw 25 pitches an inning, if that means you're going to get to a dominant bullpen sooner, right? So with that in mind, I think, their current approach would be okay, because if you can ambush a guy and, put up runs, that's a good recipe for success. But I think if you're dealing with a team that's got, a middling bullpen like the Yankees, for instance, then I think there's absolutely value in, creating traffic, making the starter work, getting to their bullpen by the 5th or 6th inning. And, there's going to be a guy there who's not on his A game, and you can take advantage of that. So I think it largely depends on the matchup itself and the strength of the opposing team's bullpen. But I absolutely agree that, being able to create traffic and make a pitcher work is ultimately going to lead to more success than just trying to hit a home run with every at bat.
And finally, Adit says, any chance Santander doing the home run derby this year? My take on this is if he is selected for the All-Star game, they're going to ask him and he'll say yes. That's what I think. I think they could still ask him even if he doesn't make the All-Star team, because we've seen guys do the home run derby and not be on the All-Star team. Trey Mancini in 2021 is a prime example. Now, that was an extenuating circumstance because he just come back from cancer. He was on his way to becoming the comeback player of the year. And he was he ended up in the finals. He lost out to, and he had a great showing in the finals, but he lost to Pete Alonso. But we've seen other guys who weren't all-stars who did the home run derby. Santander could be asked, but I think if he's not an actual all-star, I would imagine that he would rather take the few days off to spend time with his family, maybe go see his mom, rather than go to it's in Texas this year, right? Rather than go to Arlington and take part in the home run derby. For me, I'd rather see him rest if he's not going to be an all-star.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. I think it'd be fun to see him in the derby, but if he's not an all-star, I don't see it happening.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Bat Around today. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we do not have a show. But especially thank you to all of our loyal fans, viewers, listeners, subscribers. Without you, we 100% do not have a show. This was a fun one. We went really, really long today, but it was a lot to talk about. I'm glad Ryan and I both had the opportunity to go longer than usual today. Until next week,